Hi, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We had a little bit of an internet hiccup here. Thanks for being here today. My name is Matt Hill. You all know why you're here. I appreciate it. So here we go. Just letting everybody say, please, as you're already doing, please say hello in the chat. It'd be good to know where you're tuning in from. I'd really like that. Today, we are talking about how to plan, shoot, and edit a panoramic single row. So if you, just so you know, my name's Matt. I'm going to turn my video on a little bit here so you can see myself. I don't have to get in the center. I rarely talk about who I am because it's more about like, what are we trying to achieve here? But I just wanted to give you a second to know a little bit more about what I do. I am a photographer. I work with NOVOFLEX in the USA, and I really love education. In fact, so much that I co-founded a company called National Parks at Night, where we teach night photography in beautiful protected spaces around the world. We're also launching what's called the Night Photo Summit in February. If you're curious, just Google Night Photo Summit, you'll find it. So that's me. I love photography. I'm interested in gear. I'm interested in teaching people how to become better, and I really appreciate it. So that's why I do this, and that's why I'm here with you today. The second reason I'm here today is because I want you to ask me questions. Please, please, please ask me questions. Today's session is not about saying, here's a can of stuff and I'm going to present it to you. I want you to bring all the questions you have about the process that I presented before. So drop every question you have in that chat box. My first question to you guys is, did you see the video that I made? I released it on Friday of last week. The link, we're going to post it in the chat here. The link is coming your way. If you didn't see it, it's not a big deal, but it'd be better if you watched that video all the way through, and then you would have more chance to have a wider, more expanded version of what we're talking about here. So some of the feedback that I got on this was people were really glad that I went from soup to nuts, and said, hey, this is my whole thought process from beginning to end. And I put a lot of love into making that for you. And I hope that it helped you if you had questions, or if you had a different way of doing it that maybe it give you an insight that you might not have had before. So if you didn't watch it, no big deal. I'm pretty sure that this will still help you. After this, I ask you to go watch it. Give it a watch. If you're watching this on the replay, pause, use the link that's up there, go watch it and come back to right here and then continue. But today we're live and we're talking about this. I'm going to use the same structure that I did in the video. And we're going to go through the steps that I go through naturally when I'm approaching a creative project based in photography. In fact, it probably applies to all the creative projects I do, but we're going to go through planning, goal setting, shooting, processing, and then I'm going to answer all of your questions. I'm going to check in also during this to make sure that if there's questions that are germane to the topic we're talking about, that I can answer them there too. Casey asked the first question, will this be recorded? Yes, we record every single webinar. So if you're madly taking notes, put the pencil down. Don't worry about it. Let's meet eyeball to eyeball and listen to what I'm saying. You can always watch the replay, and the replay is free. We'll make sure that you get a link to it. Thanks for registering. So, yes. So first, let's jump right in. When it comes to thinking about doing a creative project, I definitely start with planning. And this is a habit that I've picked up working with other educational and professional photographers. You can walk on with skills to any situation and make a good photograph. If you've trained yourself how to solve problems with a camera, which is taking pictures, right? Then you can walk in any situation and say, I got this, no big deal. But it gets better when you put some effort into scouting and planning what you're going to do ahead of time. So this is where I put a little bit of extra effort into watching for things that I could not have to regret later on. So let me show this. It's pretty simple. There's some apps that a lot of people might be aware of, right? This is one of the ones that's very easy to be aware of because a lot of people talk about it all the time is PhotoPills. It is my app of choice when I'm planning what to do. And I'm primarily a night photographer. So this is tuned towards me. It's made for somebody like me, right? Other things that I didn't mention during the video that are also fantastic options are Planet, Planit, Photographer's Ephemeris. These all kind of do similar tasks with different logical approaches to it. And just because I prefer one doesn't mean that one of the others will work better for you. So I want you to be aware of the top three that I'm aware of. These help me understand. And sometimes I bounce between them because as an educator, I want to make sure that I know how all of them work as people choose them. Another thing that I use, and it might not be surprising, is Google Earth. Now, Google Earth used to be a standalone app, right? But now it's through a browser. So this is where I was shooting from, was within this park. So if I wanted to look in here, I could, and I could pan around, and I could sort of get a lay of the land, and I could look at this. So I know roughly by looking down in the corner what direction I'm facing, and I know roughly what the elevations of all these areas are. So this is another easy to access app that's completely free if you wanted to look at a place you haven't been yet, or if you wanted to say, how far is the parking lot from where I'm going to be? That might not be evident on, I don't know, on a trail map or something, right? So planning to grab some information from an app about where you're going to go first is very, very helpful. Just a quick question. How many of you are using apps? And if you are using an app, let me know in the chat. I'm really curious. And thank you all for being here. I see a wonderful number. Thank you for your enthusiasm. I really appreciate you being here. Okay, back to the slide presentation here. So, yes, I use Google Maps also and Google Earth because it's nice to know what things are nearby, right? So, for me, planning also leads into goals. I think they're hand in hand for me. I have to ask this, which a lot of people. Stellarium. Oh, I got to go back and answer that one. A lot of people are skipping this. I've seen at least some of the people that I've worked with. They make the pictures because they enjoy it, and that's a great reason. But I think you can dig a little bit deeper when you're approaching a scene or approaching a concept. You can find the answer by adding this in. Who is it for? So for me to answer what we were here, obviously, why am I making this photograph? Because I had a vision of this scene that my eyes believed were possible, but my camera couldn't take in one single picture. I wanted to take a picture of that bridge where I could see the lights on the bridge and some of the elements of blue hour and some of the elements of night, if possible, and some of the elements of sunset. Temporally, time-based, those things don't happen at the same time. So it had to be that I took separate pictures at separate times. And that means I needed to plan. I couldn't just show up and take a picture and walk away. So I needed to know when all of those things happened and how long I would be freezing my bits while I was out there. So why was I making this photograph? Well, I had that personal, like, what if moment. What if I tried to do this to blend these things together? I've made dusk blends before, and it's traditionally with a night sky. I'm not really a sunset photographer. I'm not against them, but I prefer the night sky to sunsets. So it was a what if moment for me. The second reason was I wanted to share it with you. I had a mission. I wanted to say, here's the things that I know how to do, and I'd like to share what it is, you know. This final output is also an interesting question. Are you going to just share it on a screen? Totally fine. If you're going to do that, you might not need to bring your highest resolution camera, right? Or you could just take a picture with a wide angle lens and crop it. I'm not saying that's the solution for everything, but thinking about how hard people are going to pixel peep is really important, right? If you're going to make a mural on a wall, you should pay close attention to the details. And that means making sure that your support system is absolutely rigid, that your alignments as you're setting up panos are as exact as you want them to be. And that leads into, how do I choose the right tools to achieve this vision? Because if I need maximum pixel output, if I need maximum resolution, then I need to make sure that everything from the ground up supports maximum resolution. And that's where the why and the who turns into how. So just taking a chat break for a second, I did see that somebody mentioned another app that I also use called Stellarium. Stellarium is extraordinary if you want to learn more about the night sky. Stellarium will show you constellations, comets, meteors, lots of other beautiful things if you want to identify them. If you want to study while you're out there making night photography, if you want to study astronomy, it's an excellent aid for that purpose. So like I said, the why and the who definitely leads into how. And I just want to check with you guys in the chat. Please let me know how many of you have put this into your practice of stopping to ask why you're making the photograph, who's it for, and what's the final output. And if you have answered those, if it's a common answer, let me know what it is. I would love that we start a dialogue with all of the attendees here to help each other understand what we use to get through the creative process. So, like I said, this leads to the next thing. I'm going to go make a picture. What do I need to make this picture with? That is the question that we as photographers have to answer every time we kit out to go do something. So that's what we're doing, is we're saying, I think I know what I'm going to do, or I know exactly what I'm going to do. And we bring a bag full of problem-solving tools. So this is what we do. My affirmation is that the more time you put into pre-production, the less time you need to spend during production. This works for photography. It works for video. It works for film. And I believe wholeheartedly in this. Right? It's the more I practice it, the more it comes true. Especially when other people are involved. But a single solo shoot like this, where I'm just making a straight pano, there's not really other people involved in it, so it's not a big deal. The third line that I want to talk about here, it sounds a little flowery. To move like water with, over, and around obstacles that can happen. This is more of a chance to change the narrative with yourself. I've always asserted that that when it comes to photography, we are glorified problem solvers. Because all we do is bring a bag of variables to a situation, and we say, I can change any of these variables, and I can make a picture. So we're ISO, f-stop, shutter speed, resolution, focal length. All of these things is us playing with the sliders to change all these variables to get within a tolerance to make a picture, right? So we are solving problems to be creative, to make pictures. There's an attitude that comes with, that's not what I wanted, so it's a problem. If you tell yourself that story that it's a problem, then you might have trouble overcoming it, right? If you're really rigid in all of the opportunities or responses you have to answer it. So I like to practice instead that there's always an answer. There's always a way to say yes. And with photography, there's so many ways to get around it with technique or tools that I believe that you can find a way. And that's through practice, that's through learning, that's through working with other people and being inspired and open to them. Those things help out a lot. So that's an attitudinal thing. In fact, I am working on one of my presentations for the Night Photo Summit right now is directly addressing that topic and how it feeds your creativity, how it fuels it. So I'm looking forward to finishing that and presenting it. The fourth option here is really important. Specifically what I'm talking about is don't move your tripod, only move the panel head. Now we're talking about being on scene, and we're saying, I need to make this panoramic at different times of the day. And this is where patience gets tested. And these last two things feed together. Some people, when engaging in night photography or engaging in long exposure photography or photography over time, looking for just the right clouds or wildlife, develop a tolerance for waiting for the right thing after preparing for the best possible outcome. Like you brought a tripod, you're pointing in the right direction. But the feeling that you might want to move your tripod, it becomes really high after an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. But at that point, hopefully the investment that you've put into it will keep you thinking, I really want to stay here and finish the shot. I want to give myself the maximum opportunity to have the right photographs that I can edit later. And I believe I saw a chat comment like that about resolution, and I agree with that, but we'll come back to that. So I say, if you know that you're a little bit antsy, and that you'd like to be working on more than one thing instead of working on just one thing, bring a second tripod and bring a second camera and walk around and go take those other pictures. This is a common practice for night photographers who are working on star trails or time lapses. So, and the last thing I want to talk about here on this shooting part is, instead of shooting inspirationally, since this is a methodical approach, shoot for the edit. Think about every scene that's showing up in front of you as, where can I place this in the final composition? One of the photographers I really admire is Stephen Wilkes. He has an amazing series called Day to Night, where he takes hundreds of pictures in a wide pano and he stitches them together. He blends them together. There's tons of high resolution images, and he is definitely thinking about it as he is shooting these to say, I want this piece to go there and I want this piece there. And from that picture, I want this. You can adapt a similar attitude to say, if I'm taking this many pictures, you might want to take notes. At 6:47 p.m., I really like the color of the sky. So you can, when you come back and say, why did I shoot this? You'll have a little bit of an indication about that. So just checking in here, how many of you have become impatient when setting up for a shot like this and said, to heck with that, I'm going to move my tripod, and then regretted it? I'm guilty of that. I learned the hard way that I should have waited. The first time that I absolutely was happy that I didn't give into it was when I was at Great Sand Dunes shooting the Perseids meteor shower. 2.5 hours with my tripod in the same position on top of the dunes just to capture a meteor gradient. I waited for the moon to come up and scrape the side of the dunes to create the shadows that I wanted. Some people with me pulled their tripods before that as the moon was making the sky bright because the meteors disappeared. I waited for the moon to cast the shadows, and I believe my foreground was more interesting as a result. So, all right. So here we go. Processing. I did go into detail on my process. I didn't necessarily record the entire Photoshop edit there, but I say before you even start to process, it'd be good to write down some notes or to sketch out your vision first so that you have a goal. You know, you can look at the notes that you had before and say, I want to try to do this. And you might find that you make 2 or 3 variations that don't match that during it. But it'd be nice to have that goal first. And editing for that vision helps you get through all of this. And then I'd say you should be ready to adjust for the surprises. Yes. So I am just going to jump out right here real quick. And I know that I spent a lot of time thinking about how to get to this point. And I was really fortunate to have on hand the products that I had. So I did have a nice top-down view of this during the shoot, but I wanted to show you guys a little bit again about why I had the confidence that I could take a pano like this. The TRIOPOD Pro 75 is a rugged beast. It holds 150 pounds, and it comes with this flat plate, which is wonderful because I prefer not to use a center column when possible. I like to have a tripod that's tall enough and just put a beefy head on top and make sure that sticks there. When I replace this plate with the MAGICBALANCE, I now have on this platform the ability to level out what's going on top. I had originally gone out shooting with the flat plate and the MAGICBALL, and then we have the Q Pro 2 here up on top. So this is good, and I absolutely love it. The beautiful thing about a MAGICBALL is that when you lock it down, it just stays. It doesn't shift incrementally. So if you're looking for something where you have really set your composition in a way that makes you want to not shift, this is what I really approve. But after I did my first shoot, I love this discovery, and this is why scouting is so important. I realized that being on flat ground, all I needed to do was to use the leveling head and the Q Pro 2 on here. So this gave me the ability to do that. So this is just from a different angle. I wanted you guys to be able to see how I think having the flexibility of not just a tripod and head, but an entire system that I can configure made me feel confident that I could tackle this in any other situation that I have in the future. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have about gear. And let's go back in to where we're starting here first. And then we'll move on to the next slide, which is Q&A. I'm going into the chat, and I'm gonna go check out and see what you guys have. So, all right. So first thing I see. So let's get some of the feedback in here. And all right. So Vico said, I'm a pro, meaning I have to give estimates for my job and those questions to determine how to do it. Yeah, I understand. If you're going to need to know how much time something takes and whether you're going to rent something or acquire a piece of gear to do something properly, it's really important to plan. I agree. Ken affirmed that he often creates at the highest resolution so he can do whatever later. I completely agree with that. And I'll speak to that a little bit more right now. That's one of the reasons that I shoot panos, is that I can stitch together multiple frames to create a higher resolution image. Sometimes you can make something that can be used in more places when you do that. I appreciate that. So what else do we have? We had some people that were connecting and doing that. All right, so going back into talking about apps, Sun Surveyor for the sun rising, sunset position, and UAV forecast for drone shooting. That's great. That's great. I have not started with drones yet because I normally operate within national parks and they're not permitted there. So it's something I'm curious about, but I haven't started with. I'll I'll have to check that out because I'm thinking about getting into drones. Sun Surveyor I have used. That is a fantastic one. Yeah, so the photographer's ephemeris and photo pills also. We've got a lot of votes for photo pills and photographer's ephemeris. That's great. And Sunseeker. Cool. All right. So appreciate all of you who checked out the video ahead of time. Some of you said you did your homework. Fantastic. I'm glad that the effort that I went into helped you guys. I like Brenda's comment here. She said she doesn't spend enough time planning. Consequently, I end up trying to take all my gear all the time. Planning time helps travel lighter, but also enhances my enjoyment of capturing the image. Brenda, they have a saying about me at National Parks at Night that my backpack is called the kitchen sink. And I'm definitely looking forward to reducing the weight of the kitchen sink because I will have just the right things. I've actually been working on reducing my kit so that I don't have as many lenses. Although I'm moving up to 2 mirrorless bodies, I will have fewer lenses. And I couldn't agree with you more because I carry too much. I'm sure when I get on a plane, my don't tell the people that run the planes, my bag is usually about 40, 45 pounds. So yeah, I don't want to carry that much weight all the time anyway. So please keep dropping your questions in if you have them. I do want to add this, that if you guys have if you want extra help figuring it out, we're here to help you. So we have a form here that I'm going to drop in the chat. If you would like to learn more about what we're doing, what we have to offer, we can help you walk through it. So this is the NOVOFLEX USA website. And as you can see, when you go to the panorama area, there's a lot of options. I happen to choose the Q Pro 2 plate because I wanted the number of gradations that it has on it, right? But there are many options when it comes to panorama. And we'd love to help you work out which ones, if it's not immediately evident, which ones might be best for you. So please feel free to use that form. The link is over on the right. We can help you with your questions. Next week is we're going to expand on this idea. So I told you that help is available, right? You're welcome to use that job form link to talk to us in the meantime. But next week on February 4th at 1 p.m., Martin is going to be hosting a gear-based Q&A. If you would like to help us navigate, if you'd like to navigate all of the options of choosing a panoramic base, L brackets, long plates, any of that stuff, we're ready to walk you through all of that. And Martin is going to run a wonderful event there. And he's coming in right now to give us a chance to say hello. Hello, Martin. How you doing?
Hey, Matt. I'm doing great. Thanks for this awesome webinar. It was really cool listening to what you had to say and how you try to blend all these images together and how you created the video. It was really awesome. Thanks for all of that.
I appreciate that. Thanks. It's good to see you. It's been too long since we did the last one.
Exactly. It was last year in December.
That's right. But now we're doing this. We're going to be doing, folks, so you know, we're going to be doing about 2 of these per month. So I will be teaching what I do, which is mission-based in education, and Martin is going to be talking gear. So I think between the 2 of us, we can answer practically any question you want. And if you have a creative mission that you want to send me on, I already have plans for the things that I want to do, but I'm curious if you guys want to send me on a creative mission, what that would be. So post it in the chat or leave it in the comments. I'm open to solving creative problems with photography. So Martin, tell us about next week.
Well, you spoke about the why and when and how, and next week we will be talking about all the gear that NOVOFLEX has to offer. We will be talking about panning bases. We will be solving the mystery behind panning bases with built-in click stops, and how this can solve some of the problems you may experience in creating stunning panoramic images. We will be talking about L brackets. We will be talking about the no parallax point and other like panoramic products. That's what we will be doing next week.
Right. And I have to say, I omitted talking about parallax and what's called the nodal point for this presentation, because I think that deserves its own educational presentation by itself. So,
well, we will at least mention it, because if you enter the topic of panorama photography, you will stumble over this term quite a lot. Don't you agree?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I performed that calibration prior to doing the shooting. You'll notice in the video, my camera was set in a particular place. I knew where the nodal point was. So, yeah, we'll get to it. But there was a big topic to cover, and we're going to go over. Yeah,
we will get to it. We will solve the mystery. We will explain the no parallax point, or the so-called nodal point, and some other topics as well.
Right. So Brenda's asking, what is a nodal point? We'll talk about that next week. But essentially, it's this. It's when parallax occurs, when you are turning your camera left and right, and objects in the foreground misaligned with the background. They are out of place. So when you're doing a pano stitch, they're in different places as you stitch them together. We'll go into a deeper dive on that educationally and talking about gear separately. Exactly. So just to reiterate, if you want to sign up for next week's webinar, the link is in the chat here. Please go sign up for that. We'd love to see you there. Yeah. Anything you want to add, Martin?
Well, if you want to collect questions for next week's webinar, just write them down and drop them in the chat box in next week's webinar, and we will be glad to answer all the questions you may have when it comes to panorama photography.
Yep. Awesome. So speaking of questions, this is the promise we make every time. If you have questions and we didn't get to them because the text is really small in the chat box, sorry about that. We will definitely answer to you. We check out the chat from every single webinar and make sure we get follow-ups. We work hard to bring you periodic content. It's posted on YouTube. It's posted on our website. So if you could subscribe on YouTube, it'd be wonderful. Join our email list on NOVOFLEXUS.com or follow us on Facebook. Wherever you like to be, we're there, and we appreciate you. And thank you.
Yeah,
all right, so we do have some good questions coming in for you. Yeah. Thank you for coming in, Martin. I look forward to being your second fiddle next week.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
All right. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week.